If you've ever been around poor people, you clearly understand why rich people don't want to be around poor people. Because the reality is this, poor people don't want to be around poor people. So if poor people don't want to be around poor people, why would rich people want to be around poor people? And I want to give you 5 specific reasons why rich people don't want to be around poor people. And here's the thing, before you judge me and before you give me any kind of hate in the comments, wait till I get to number 3, because this might give you more clarity than what this specifically just starts off telling you, because when you get to number 3, you might find out that you are in that group where you don't like the poor either. Reason number 1, the rich, they celebrate you for being rich, but the poor, they actually blame you for being rich. Now, I even wrote a whole book on why money is killing you daily, and I dedicated a specific chapter to why the rich can't make you poor. Because there are some people that just have a poor mentality, a poor mindset, and a poor outlook, and they think because of what somebody else has, it takes away from what they don't. And the reality is this, if you take whatever they think somebody else has away from those who they think should not have it for whatever reason, it's still not gonna cause them to have any more than what they currently have. And even if you took away what they think somebody rich has and you gave it to them, it's only a matter of time before they're going to be poor. And this is one of the key reasons why rich people don't want to be around poor people. Because think about this, you work hard, you dedicate yourself, you do all of these positive things, and you sacrifice what other people are not willing to sacrifice to get what you got, and then you're attacked for doing it, and then you're minimized for doing it, as if somebody gave you this special magic fairy dust or some kind of advantage because you worked. And nobody gave you anything. You didn't inherit it. You worked and you got this level of wealth, riches, and whatever else that you have, and then somebody attack you for it. And sometimes poor people, they try to make you feel guilty for what you have. And the reality is this, there are so many situations where they had the same exact opportunity, but they chose a different route. And now they want to make you a victim of their choices. Think about that. They want to make you a victim of their choices because they chose a different route. They not only want you to pay for their choices, but they want you to feel like a victim because of their choices. They want you to feel guilty for the choices that you made that they did not make, and what you chose yielded a different result than what they have. And I'm sure you probably heard the phrase, why be tolerated when you can be celebrated? Why go somewhere where people just attack you and they tolerate you versus going and being around people who actually celebrate you for your efforts, and they celebrate you just for who you are, not just because of what you have. And when you think about a lot of poor people, they have a problem for every solution. No matter what solution that you give them, they're going to find some kind of problem for every single solution that you have because they're looking for somebody to blame. They're looking for ways to be a victim. They're looking for something to be responsible for their results that have nothing to do with them. And when they look outside themselves to blame something, they're going to find it every single time, even though it's not true. Because the reality is this, whatever you look for, you're going to find it. Because even in this world, there are people that are in utter poverty, and there are people that are in utter wealth, if you will. And don't get me wrong, there are some situations where people that are in utter poverty, they just don't have the same resources and the same opportunities as other people have. However, you have some that have the same exact opportunity, but they still end up in polar opposite worlds, even though they might live in the same city, because one chose this path and another chose this path. And it's like, just because somebody else chose a different path, they worked, they got a result. And just because somebody else doesn't have, doesn't mean that this person shouldn't, because they chose what they chose. And they're just a victim of their own choices, not making somebody else a victim of the choices that they made. Now, reason number 2, rich people surround themselves with people that are like-minded because they understand that you are the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. So each of the 5 people that you spend the most time with, they make up 20% of who you are as an overall collective. And so when you think about that reality, why would rich people want to be around poor people? Because poor people have poor people's problems. And even though rich people have problems too, it's much better to have the rich problems than the poor problems. And it's much better to be in rich environments than poor environments. And when you think about the people that surround the poor people, you don't feel safe. You typically don't feel safe. And you typically don't feel a lot of trust. And you typically don't feel a lot of love. And I'm not saying those same things can't take place in a rich environment, but it's very rare that you feel the same exact thing that you do when you're around people that are poor. Because the thing about poor people is that they not only blame other people, but they'll also blame you. If you stay around poor people long enough, it's only a matter of time before they're going to blame you. Whatever they blame you for, something that you might have even been around, but somehow it's going to end up your fault. Because they don't discriminate. It's like whoever is the closest, whoever is the easiest target, that's who they're going to choose. And just to be clear, when it comes to poor people, it has nothing to do with your race, where you grew up, your gender. It has nothing to do with any of those things, because there's a lot of poor people in every single sector, boundary, culture, religious background, in anything you could think of. There's poor people in those environments, and there's also rich people in those environments as well. Reason number 3, the rich talk about vision and the poor talk about other people. There's a famous saying from the ancient book of wisdom, and it says that where there is no vision, people will perish. And so when you think about what that really means, meaning that if you don't have something to look forward to, right now doesn't matter. 10 minutes from now doesn't matter, because you don't have anything to look forward to. And it's very important for all of us to have something to look forward to. And so when you think about poor people don't focus on vision, they focus on talking about other people. Rich people focus on vision, because they understand that it's not just important for right now, but it's also important for me to focus on later on. And it's also important for me to focus on something to give my attention and my energy towards. And they understand that the more I focus on not just right now, but also the future, it gives me something to look forward to. And when I have something to look forward to, it causes me to have a healthy and a positive anticipation. Now, even beyond that, there is a Hebrew term called lashon hara, and what that stands for is the evil tongue. And so when poor people talk about other people, they're participating in lashon hara. Now you might be thinking, well, what about it? Well, it's a universal principle, and what that principle does and what it says is that when you participate in lashon hara, it causes you to be stagnant in your growth. It causes you to be stagnant in your finances. It causes you to be stagnant in your relationships. Now, that's a universal principle like gravity. Now, maybe you've never heard that term before, but I want you to challenge me on it. And I want you to think about the poor people that you know or that you've seen, and think about how stuck they feel. Think about how stuck they are. And think about how long they've been where they've been. Because they're focusing on a universal principle that they're not even familiar with and aware that's even operating within them. And so every single time a poor person talks about somebody else, that's keeping them stuck for another 7 days. And it's a whole different principle that goes beyond that. And that's why rich people focus on vision and not focusing on talking about people, because they understand that when you talk about other people, that's going to keep you poor, it's going to keep you stuck, and it's going to keep you miserable, because everything that you want is on the other side and you can see it, but you can't possess it because of universal principles. And so much of it comes right back to lashon hara. And so many poor people, they participate in lashon hara without even knowing it. And it just perpetuates more of everything that they don't want, because they start to feel stuck. They blame other people, like miserable, and wondering like, why me, this whole victim mentality, not realizing that it's something that they're participating in, and it's them talking about other people and not talking about vision. Because when you talk about vision, it gives you a larger vision of yourself. It gives you a larger expansion of yourself, and it causes you to become somebody bigger than what you currently are, to even tap into and seize and actually be a part of the vision. And that's why rich people, they continue to up level, they continue to grow, and they continue to experience abundance at a higher level than poor people do. Now, I told you at the beginning of the video that when it gets to number 3, you'll see exactly why the rich people don't associate or even talk to the poor people. And maybe you are one of these same people that, once you understand this, that you might not even talk to the poor either. Is I want you to understand is this: when it comes to being rich and being wealthy, it's not just about money. When I think about wealth, I think about finances, health, and relationships. 2 of the most valuable things that we have in this life are time and relationships. Because there are certain things that you can't get with money. Money can't buy you certain things that only can come from a relationship. And it doesn't matter how much money you have, and even how much, how many great relationships you have, time is something that we also technically can't buy more of. Now, there is ways you can buy more time, but from the reality of how we see things as a unified front, you can't buy more time. And so time and relationships are the 2 most valuable assets that we have. And that's 2 things technically, that rich people truly value, because rich people have certain relationships that will get them in certain doors and get them certain opportunities that poor people would never have access to. And I'll take it a step further. When you think about loving families, Because again, rich and wealth is not just about money, but you think about loving families. There are so many loving families that truly love each other, have each other's back. They're the phenomenal support system for each other, and they don't have all the money in the world, but they have time for one another, and they understand the importance of nurturing and strengthening these relationships. Because when things get hard, when things get tough, when things shut down, when things just cave in, when you have an incredible support system around you, no matter what you're going through, you're going to get through it because of the people around you, even if not for yourself. Because sometimes there are certain strengths that we possess inside of us that we don't even realize are there until the people around us help us to not only recognize, but also activate it. And so time and relationships are two things that poor people do not focus on, because sometimes poor people will step on you and step on whoever else to get whatever they think they're going to possess to make their life better. Not realizing that when you step over somebody and you misuse people, those things, whatever you get, is not gonna last long. Because whoever you stepped on, it's only a matter of time before you're going to either need them or need somebody like them or need somebody who's connected to them, and they're going to remember the previous thing that you did. Because a lot of poor people are very short-sighted. They don't have vision, they just focus on right now. And when you think about being around poor people, you don't trust them, because you don't know if they're going to attack you out of desperation or they're going to attack you out of them thinking that you falsely have something that you don't, like you're not supposed to have. And that's a big difference between poor and rich people as well. Rich people, they understand the importance of doing things out of inspiration, while poor people do things out of desperation. And when you are around people that do things from an inspired perspective, it gives you a sense of calm, it gives you a sense of comfort, it gives you a sense of trust that when you're around this person, you can let your guard down. But when you're around somebody who's desperate, that desperate person might either A, do something directly to you, or B, they might do something around you that put you as well as them and everybody else at risk. And it's like, who wants to be around you? And that's one of the key reasons why rich people don't even talk to poor people. Because they understand that some people, they only deserve your silence. Because a lot of times, poor people will cause you to argue for what you work for. They'll cause you to try to defend what you work for. You live over there and you have this car, you have these things, and it's like poor people will try to make you feel guilty for having those things and cause you to try to defend what you have that you work for. You don't want to be around that, and neither does anybody else. Number 4, the rich make their money work for them to earn more money, while the poor focus on exchanging time for money. And just like I said previously, two of the most phenomenal assets that we have in this world is time and relationships. And the one thing that poor people don't understand a lot of times that rich people do is that when it comes to exchanging your time for money, you're exchanging your family for money. Because you don't get more time, even though you can make more money. And you don't get another family. And so a lot of times poor people focus so much on exchanging their time for money that they neglect their family in the process of doing so, and not realizing that relationships and time are the two greatest assets that you have. And which is why rich people focus on how can I get my money to make money without exchanging my time for it. Because there are ways where you don't have to be a multi-millionaire to cause your money to make more money for you, so you don't have to exchange your time for money. You are causing your money to exchange money for money. And it gives you the ability to now focus on spending time with those that mean the most to you. Spending time doing things that matter the most to you. And so a lot of poor people, they only focus on spending their time to make more money. But rich people understand that one of the most valuable assets that we have is time. And how can I get more time? How can I make more money without exchanging my time for it? And I'll tell you this, wealthy people actually, they do have more time than poor people do. How do they have more time than poor people do? Because so many rich people and so many wealthy people, what they do is that they buy poor people's time at a discount. They might pay you a fee, but whatever fee that they're paying you, you're making them a lot more than what they're paying you. And they're taking the extra that they're making from your efforts, and they're now buying more time from other people to do the exact same thing, and it gives them the ability and the time to do whatever they want to. Now, this happens every single day, even on a low level. This is not something that has to take place where somebody is this big corporation with thousands of people. It doesn't have to happen like that. But either way, it happens on a regular basis. And the most important thing to understand is that time with your loved ones, time with your kids, time around your family, even time for yourself is something that you can never get back. Even right now, this time, you can never get this time back. You can never get yesterday back. You can never get, this morning back. And just to be clear, I'm not saying that having a job is wrong, because sometimes you have to do what you have to do until you can do what you want to do. But having a vision, going back to the previous point, but having a vision of what you want your life to look like, and having a vision that this is only temporary, and having a vision that this is going to help me get there. Because there are so many people that I know personally where their job is their business partner. So having a job is not a bad thing. And I know that sometimes in order for you to have a certain amount of money, to make money, make other money, you got to go somewhere and work, or you have to get, something to start with. So I understand that. And so I want to be clear in saying, that a job is not the enemy, if you will, because I know a lot of people, they think when somebody's talking about somebody working for money, they're thinking about, they're attacking me because I got a job, and this is how I feed my family, and this is how I make a living. This is not what I'm doing here. What I'm saying is this, going back to the previous point, have a vision, because even if you have a job, if you have a vision, you can cause that job to work in your favor to support your vision and cause you to now get to a level of freedom that doesn't exist for everybody who you work with, because they don't have a vision. So even if you have a job, if you have a vision, now you have something that you can use to work towards your freedom. And one of the greatest investments that we can ever make in this life is investing in our freedom. Because so often people go to school and they get these degrees and they have all of this student debt. And the reality is this, the only degree in the world that matters is your degree of freedom. That's the most important degree in this world that we can get. I don't care if somebody got a PhD and master's. Listen, if you don't have freedom, you have not invested in the right thing. You can have all those things and you can have freedom, but you never want to exchange any of those things for freedom, because it does not equal. Now, number 5 and the last point, rich people focus on solving problems before they get here. Poor people don't focus on the future at all and complain about their problems when they come. And one of the key distinctions between the rich and the poor, in that the poor doesn't focus on problems in the future, but rich people do, is that rich people also determine success in advance. A lot of times, rich people focus on, this is going to be successful 6 months from now because I'm a part of it. This is going to be phenomenal a year from now because I'm connected with it. This is going to be absolutely incredible for me and my family because I decided right now that it's going to be. Whereas a lot of times, poor people, they just become a victim of whatever happened. They leave things to chance. They don't determine in advance. And then they don't prepare for the future or the present. And they spend more time complaining than they do planning. There's a famous quote that says, when you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And that's exactly what a lot of poor people do. They actually plan to fail because they have no plan. They have no vision. They have no responsibility, and they have no foundation to stand on to truly elevate them to where they say they want to go. Because there's a lot of poor people that say they want more money. They want a healthy lifestyle. They want a positive marriage. But when you look at their actions, when you look at the things that they say, when you look at their habits, it says something 100% totally different. And even when you focus on the money, when you think about how much poor people gossip and complain about rich people, how can you ever acquire something that you attack? It's impossible because it's a conflict. So to say that you actually want more money, but then you complain and you talk about, and you blame people for having money, that's a mismatch. It's not congruent. And there's always going to be an internal conflict, because if you get what they have, now you become the person that you actually talked about. And now all these other poor people are going to talk about you just like you talked about the rich person. So unconsciously, your unconscious mind is going to keep you from ever having that, because why would you ever want to be in a position where somebody could easily attack you for what you have? That's exactly what poor people do. So if you're somebody who has vision, you have great work ethic, you're working towards something, you want more for yourself than what you currently have, and there are people around you that will criticize you for what you're working on. They'll criticize you for your vision. They'll criticize you for having a dream. Or as people that you don't even feel comfortable sharing your dream with, because you feel like they're going to attack you just for having a dream, not even acquiring it in reality. Those people are poor people. And one of the things that we have to be very careful of is never introduce of big vision to a small mind. Because what they're going to do for their own comfort and safety, they're going to attack you and make you shrink your vision to meet their comfort. And that's never somebody who's supporting you. That's the poor, and you're rich. And that's never something you should ever apologize for, feel guilty about, or try to explain yourself to somebody who does not agree because they can't see your vision. Listen, if this is your first time here, I want to ask you to consider subscribing and comment below and let me know what's your big takeaway. What's your thoughts on this? And tell me, have you come across any poor people for attacking you for your vision, your dream, or your idea, or even what you have? But either way, thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.